How's she go? I'm Jeanette Kopf, the director of the World Museum of Mining.
And I'm Dan Rapkoch. I work up here at the World Museum of Mining, and we are starting a new endeavor.
We are Drifts and Tales, where history tells a story, a new podcast here from the World Museum of Mining. And this idea actually came to me through Dan. So Dan, why don't you explain a little bit why you brought this podcast to us?
Well, one of the reasons is that having worked at the front cash register and greeting folks that are coming into the World Museum of Mining, I'm amazed at, first of all, the wide breadth of interest in the museum. I'm amazed at the wide breadth of interest in Butte, Montana, as well as from a worldwide perspective, how important this facility and what story it tells is to the people of not only Butte, not only Montana, but the world.
No, and I agree with you completely, as this story is, Butte just has its unique story. And Butte residents in Butte here just loves its history and loves to tell its story. And there's so much more to it than just the Copper Kings. And I think that this is going to be our opportunity to share the story, yes, of the Copper Kings, but also of the day-to-day miner, the day-to-day jobs, and how we are trying to share that history here.
I think that's a very important and compelling story. It's one of man against the mountain, man against the system, man against any number of things, and it's manifest in what the story is that's told through this facility.
Let's go back a second and let's, as we probably, hopefully have a whole lot of new viewers through this. This is our first podcast, and we just wanted to do a little introduction here before we actually get into our episodes. But let me talk a minute about the World Museum of Mining. We actually officially opened our doors July 18th, 1965. So we're in 2025. So we're 60 years old this year, which makes it kind of a fun year to start this new project. Releasing December 6th. So hopefully you're watching this on December 6th, 2025. The concept of the museum was started in about 1963. And the Exchange Club and others just decided that the story of Butte mining was just an extremely important story to tell. And so they wanted to do a museum. Didn't have a place, but had a concept. So they started gathering artifacts, gathering ideas, and they actually found a place to put the museum in the Flats, which for those of you that don't know Butte, we have the Flats and we have Uptown. And the Flats is not where the mining happened per se. Uptown is where more of the mining happened. Did you want to expand on that at all?
Well, I just wanted to, first of all, when you mention all of these elements that came into the creation of this museum, first thing that always comes to mind is the audacious nature of it. Okay. The fact of the matter is it's the World Museum of Mining. But yet, when you peel back the onion, you peel back the layers of the facility, you peel back the people and who bring the history to life. It is a real fitting name. And it's a very fitting that it also should be, as you were mentioning, up here on a mine site where men toiled for nearly, 60 years, 70 years, and brought out mineral that was so important to the electrification, the development of the United States and the world.
And really just define Butte, which you bring up a great opportunity to share why we're the World Museum of Mining. And we're not sharing the world story of mining. We're sharing Butte's story of mining. But we came about the world because of the number of people, different nationalities, ethnicities, immigrants who came here to Butte to support their families, to find their fortune, even just to survive. And so that's why we're the World Museum of Mining, because the world kind of came down on us, which is a story that, these people in 1963, 1964 wanted to share. Was that so many people were influenced by not just cowboys and Indians here in Butte. We're influenced by the world. That's what shaped us.
I was born and raised in Bozeman, Great Falls, Lewistown, went to school in both Bozeman and Missoula. And everything in all of those communities has a relationship to Butte, Montana, or Butte, America. And this is the museum, in my opinion, is the pinnacle. It is the culmination of the importance and the relevancy that this community and this area, with all of its influences from around the world, has served.
Yeah. Well, and of course, we're a little biased working here, but I agree with you totally that it does. I viewed as the center of so much, not only for Montana, but for so many things, which we'll uncover during this podcast and hopefully the next several years, several episodes.
One thing that you mentioned, Jeanette, is that we like to look at it. Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is the folks that we've greeted this year with me being here, the folks that we've greeted are relishing a personalized story, which I believe, whether it's Hell Roaring Gulch or it's touring the mine facilities, it gives them a sense of what their ancestors did.
Exactly.
It gives them a sense of what the struggle and toil that was shared by people from throughout the world.
Exactly. And how many people came here and they have a direct connection to Butte with, long lost great grandfather or uncle or, their best friend's father. They're walking through the door to experience those stories that we're trying to tell.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. And I mean, we've had folks this summer from China. Mm-hmm. We've had folks from the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. We've had folks from Spain, from Italy, from the whole world who both have a direct relationship through their families and friends, as well as just an overall tangential relationship to what this facility, what this town of Butte really means to the world.
Exactly, which is more of the reason why we want to do this podcast and share these stories with everyone, because not everybody can get to Butte, Montana. But then going back to where I kind of started, all of this that we've been talking about is why they wanted to share this story. So in 63, they were talking about putting it in the flats, which, as we said, there wasn't a whole lot of mining happening there. And so the Anaconda Company, the company that was in control, for lack of a better word right now, they were shifting gears a little bit. Not as much mining was happening. And the Orphan Girl mine that we sit on here wasn't in operation. And so they gifted the World Museum of Mining the property, which seems, like you were saying, so much more appropriate because this is where the men worked. This is where the men, experienced their lives in their mining. And we get to go, we offer the underground mine tour. And Dan, being one of the tour guides recently, has been able to share those stories underground where the miners worked. What kind of experience was that for you doing your first underground tour?
I can't get a little bit of background on myself. I have worked in the journalism and the broadcast profession in the state of Montana my entire life. My dad was over in Bozeman and at KXLF here in Butte, the radio side of it. And then I went to work as a legislative reporter for the Montana legislature. And everything that emerges from Montana has its roots in Butte, Montana, whether it's television broadcasting, radio broadcasting, whether it's the keeping of the books. And it's one of the things that I've really enjoyed in terms of going on tours and introducing people to this facility is to give them an idea that it's a far-ranging, far expansive story that, again, as I've said before, emanates from here, but also is as simple as a man with his buddy using a steel and pounding into the ore bodies that are 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 feet below the surface.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, up to a mile deep, right?
Yeah.
A mile deep, mile high.
Well, one of the other things, when you mention that, is I like to tell folks about how the miners liked during their time period that this mine was in operation working here because of the temperature differential.
Yeah.
And the Mountain Con, which is about a mile from here, you're talking a 50, 60 degree difference in temperature.
Yeah, warmer down at the Mountain Con. This is one of the more temperate mines to work in. I was going to say cooler, but I guess it's cooler in a number of ways.
Right. But there again, getting back to what I hope we're going to accomplish, and folks, when they view, are going to be the judges of that, is that this isn't a one-dimensional story.
No, not at all.
And this facility is the facility that can coalesce all those stories
Mm-hmm.
into something that is compelling
Mm-hmm.
and something that we can all have a relationship with.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, most definitely. And I think it's important to go back as we're talking about the history of a museum to state that, I said that we originally opened in July 18th, 1965, once the land was donated to us by the Anaconda Company. And it just started off with our head frame, gallus frame, that the miners would use to get themselves and the equipment in and out, as well as the gallus frame and the engine room, and nothing else was here. And from 1965 until the mid 1990s, this place was built by the heart of volunteers and the heart of people that just loved and adored Butte history. There were no paid staff here for 30 years. Everything was donated, donated time, donated materials. There were some things, of course, that had to be purchased, but it really is the true character of Butte that built the museum. And so we had our first paid staff in the 1990s because it just kind of got to that point in order to organize it the way that the vision was, is where it went. And we still thrive because of volunteers. We have several volunteers here. This year especially, there's been all kinds of volunteer work. It's been fun. And it's that heart of Butte. It's that Butte tough, and it's that just Butte passion that brings this place to life.
When I was in college at Montana State University in Bozeman back in the early 1980s,
Mm-hmm.
took Montana history, which of course was the course you had to take if you're going to live and work in Montana. And I used it in my journalism profession. One of the first assignments was to come here. It was to come to the World Museum of Mining and to observe. And you're talking about that's even during the pinnacle of the volunteer period.
Exactly.
And the formation period.
Yes.
But it has stuck with me. And it has stuck with every one of my friends who came with us on that trip. And it is transcends. It transcends even into 2025, because I've had a gentleman a couple of weeks ago here who works at Disney World. And he was blown away by what and how the story has been told here.
Exactly. And that's what we're hoping to bring to you guys. And then a little bit of history, just feeding off of what you just said, remembering that field trip back in 1980. I wasn't born in Montana. I'm not a native Montanan. I was born in Tucson, Arizona, the story goes. I was born in Tucson, Arizona. When I was 9, my parents forced me to move to California with them. And so I basically grew up in Southern California, which is nothing like Montana. When my husband and I met on a blind date, and a few weeks later, he's like, if this works out, we're moving to Montana one day. Okay, whatever. And so we ended up getting married. We had 2 kids, and sure enough, about 7 years after we got married, here we are in Montana, and that was back in about 2007, 2006. And then I substitute taught for a little bit, raised our girls for a few years, and then in 2010, I got a job here at the World Museum of Mining as education director, part-time seasonal education director. And I had to call my dad because as I grew up, my dad was a history major. I hated history. I didn't want to have anything to do with history whatsoever. And then I get a job here at a history museum. And so we laughed about it. But Butte history has a way of just tugging at those heartstrings and making you love history and get interested in history. And it's because of this place that I gained a love of history, and pardon the pun, dig into it now. So
I think that's very is the quintessential story.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll look at it from living in Montana my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Butte has at times been the butt of jokes,
Mm-hmm.
as well as been the pinnacle of what success is in the
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah.
And I think we're going on one of those upswings again.
Mm-hmm.
The level of interest, getting back to that, has been very heartening for me as a native Montanan, as well as I can hear it in your voice as well, that we don't necessarily like history until it's put in our face.
Exactly.
And consequently, then you gain through that history, which I think this facility does in spades. You gain an understanding of what made a community, what made a facility like this so important.
Exactly.
Because the story has to continue to be told.
Exactly. We need to learn from the past and continue to grow on what worked and learn from what didn't work, but still tell that story. And we try to make sure that we share all of that here. And you can really see the root of a lot of where Montana was formed, even just here at the museum. And some of those are little hidden gems that you would never know. And we hope to uncover those hidden gems and share that with you through this podcast and interview people that have a story to tell and have a deep knowledge of Butte or Butte history, so we can really find those untold stories as well as those told stories.
Butte's history, again, I've gained a respect and a knowledge from this summer, is not just a story of Butte.
Exactly.
It is a story of this country, of this world we live in today, of the cell phones and all the other things. I was looking out the other day at, just as a mention of the importance of copper.
Oh yeah.
Which made Butte what it is. And the fact of the matter is, I used to be in the satellite uplink truck business at one point. But the fact is, what was dug from the earth now propels our ability to communicate in the stars.
Yes, yes.
And it all has its roots in the Orphan Girl, the Mountain Con, or any of the many mines.
Any of the Butte mines, yeah, most definitely. So much is tied. So much Butte has contributed to so much of that history. And, copper is now a critical mineral. Did you see that? Which is important. And one of the things, this reminds me, just kind of going back to the mining, because we want to also stress it's not just about Butte history, but it is the history of hard rock mining here in Butte as well. And one of the sayings in mining is that if it can't be grown, it must be mined. And I think that's important to sit and think about, that it is one of the two. If it can't be grown, it must be mined. And how mining is around us every day and how we live our lives because of mining every day. Communications is a big one. If it wasn't for mining, we wouldn't have a cell phone. We wouldn't be doing this podcast.
No, we wouldn't have any of these things. And I was actually talking with my wife earlier today. It's not that the world, from the human perspective, has necessarily evolved forward without a push. And the push happens to be that orange material that has been dug out from the hill or the silver or any of those things. And there again, it gets back to what I was talking about before, and you have articulated the importance of understanding, and that I think is articulated through this facility.
Yeah, no, and that's what we want to share with our listeners, and how we're doing that here at the museum, and share that story. And hopefully it also brings up some ideas of how we can even improve our facilities to tell that story better. Of course, this being one of those ways is by sharing the story outside of just here at the museum, sharing the story with those who can't come, as I said earlier. And where those stories stand, where you can find the stories, which hopefully just brings the museum to life even more through this.
Oh, I believe, as you're watching this event took place about a month ago, but the Hats Off to Butte event was an event that was held in Uptown to celebrate the importance of headwear to folks from previous generations. And it also tells a very direct story of how important, and the pictures that are available here, it tells a direct story of the civilizing of a town.
And that project was so much fun to work on, and it's going to be a continuing project as well, the Hats Off to Butte, where it brought that history and that culture and the art all together in one exhibit. And we'll share some of those stories and pictures with you guys later, because it was just held, but it was an exciting event that will continue. And we even dug deep into how millinery and crepe paper relate to the first parade in Butte. And you would never find those three things together unless you were digging pretty deep. And Elizabeth Trithart, who I worked with, she dug deep and she found that. So that's some of the stories that we'll share with you, because we do hope to do a float in the 4th of July parade, bringing all of that back and bringing that culture back and that history back, and just showing where all of it collided here in this town. Again, I said it earlier, we weren't cowboys and Indians.
Right. That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Consider miners first came searching for gold in 1864.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1876, development of the hill was taking place, and development of the community was taking place at the same time that Custer was fighting at Little Bighorn.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that just gives you an idea. My brother, one of my brothers, has always commented about how the town of Butte was kind of the antithesis of Montana.
Mm-hmm.
It was sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
It was dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a mine camp that refused to die. I mean, that's important, because if you really look at the history of mine camps around the Western United States, you'll find that many of them came, many of them went away. This one didn't go away, it flourished.
Exactly. And I think that's a great place to actually, I do want to go back one place before I say that and talk a little bit about how we got the name Drifts and Tales. Do you remember how we got that?
You're going to have to remind me. There were a lot of names that were
So
discussed.
it kind of came through. We were going through different names. Yes, we went to AI. We tried to use AI, trying to find names and digging for, what really captures the story that we're trying to tell. And you were talking to a guest up at the front about all of the mines underground,
Mm-hmm.
and the miles and miles and miles of underground mining that still sit beneath Butte, and all underwater now. And that's where it kind of clicked. We want to represent that underground part. And so Drifts came up somewhere in that conversation, and we're telling the story. So Drifts and Tales, where history tells a story.
One other thing you just reminded me of is the progression of technology.
Mm-hmm.
This now, what we're talking about here, is in making the story able to, again, further unpeel that onion.
Mm-hmm.
And because technology allows us to really dig deep into the hidden facts, the hidden excitement, and then the hidden sorrows
Mm-hmm.
that all represent Butte through the World Museum of Mining.
Exactly. Yes. So stay tuned. We'll be releasing 8 episodes over the next few months, starting December 6th. And every 2 weeks after that, there'll be an episode with some special editions throughout,
Sure.
including one on February 9th for the first Montana Mining Day, as well as a few other tidbits. And we'll come on special when things come. So we hope you watch and follow. You can find us on YouTube.
And we also encourage you to come visit. It's always a great opportunity to expand your knowledge of the history of Montana and the history of Butte as well.
So thanks for watching, and we hope to see you again soon. Tap for life.
My sweetheart's a mule in the mine. I drive her with only one line. On the backboard I sit, tobacco I spit.